The little girl appeared on a Monday morning in September, standing outside Mama Lou's soul food kitchen in South Philadelphia, pressing her face against the window like she was memorizing every detail of the breakfast plates being served inside. Keisha Washington noticed her immediately. Not just because the girl looked out of place, small and alone on a busy street corner at 7 a.m., but because of her eyes. Old eyes in a young face, eyes that had seen things no 7-year-old should see. "You gonna feed that child or just stare at her?" Mama Lou called from the kitchen, spatula in hand, 3 eggs sizzling on the griddle behind her. Keisha grabbed a styrofoam container, loaded it with scrambled eggs, bacon, grits, and 2 biscuits, and walked outside. The girl took 3 steps back when the door opened, ready to run. "It's okay, baby," Keisha said softly, setting the container on the newspaper box between them. "I'm just leaving this here. You don't have to take it if you don't want to." She went back inside, watching through the window as the girl waited a full minute before approaching the food. When she finally opened the container, she didn't eat immediately. She closed it, carefully, and put it in the tattered backpack that looked like it weighed more than she did. "She's saving it," Mama Lou said, appearing beside Keisha. "That's a child who doesn't know when the next meal's coming." The girl came back the next morning, and the morning after that. By the end of the first week, she'd stop running when Keisha came outside. By the second week, she'd wait at the same spot on the sidewalk, her backpack at her feet, her eyes tracking Keisha's movement from counter to door. But she never spoke. Not once. Not even to say thank you. "You know anything about her?" asked Jerome, the cook who'd worked at Mama Lou's for 15 years. "Where she's sleeping? Who her people are?" Keisha shook her head. "I don't ask questions that might make her disappear." The regular customers started noticing. Some approved, leaving extra tips with notes like "for the little one outside." Others were less kind. "You're enabling bad parenting," said Mrs. Patterson, who came in every Thursday for the early bird special. "Her mother's probably inside somewhere sleeping off last night. Or maybe she doesn't have a mother," Keisha replied quietly, refilling the woman's coffee without being asked. By week 4, Keisha had established a routine. Breakfast in a container at 7 a.m., lunch at noon if the girl was still nearby, which she usually was. She'd sit on the steps of the closed barber shop next door, reading books that looked too advanced for her age, waiting. "That child is 7 years old and reading Toni Morrison," Mama Lou observed one afternoon. "That ain't normal." "Smart isn't normal?" Keisha asked. "Being homeless and reading Beloved at 7 years old isn't normal," Mama Lou corrected. "That child is running from something specific. Question is what?" In week 6, a man in an expensive suit started showing up. He'd park across the street in a black Mercedes, watching the girl through tinted windows. He never approached, never got out of the car, just watched for 20 minutes before driving away. Keisha felt her stomach tighten every time she saw that Mercedes. Something was wrong. Something was hunting this child. "You see that car?" she asked Jerome on the 3rd day the Mercedes appeared. "Every day this week," he confirmed. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" "I'm thinking we need to call someone." "And say what?" "A rich man is watching a homeless girl. Police gonna laugh you off the phone. You know how they treat calls from this neighborhood." He was right. Keisha had grown up 6 blocks from here. She knew exactly how seriously the police took concerns from black business owners in South Philly. So she did something else. She started taking photos. The Mercedes, the license plate, the girl's routine. She documented everything in a small notebook she kept in her apron pocket. Times, dates, observation. She didn't know what she was building a case for, but she knew she was building something. On day 43, the girl spoke for the first time. "Thank you, Miss Keisha." Keisha nearly dropped the food container. "You know my name? It's on your tag." The girl's voice was soft but clear, with an accent Keisha couldn't quite place. "Not Philly. Not even East Coast. What's your name, baby?" The girl's face closed up immediately, and Keisha knew she'd pushed too hard. "It's okay. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to." But the girl surprised her. "Sarah, My name is Sarah. That's a beautiful name. It's not my real name. Sarah looked directly at Keisha for the first time. But it's the safe one. Before Keisha could respond, Sarah grabbed her backpack and ran, disappearing around the corner like she always did when anyone asked too many questions. That night, Keisha couldn't sleep. A child with a safe name. A mysterious Mercedes that appeared like clockwork. Books too advanced for her age. The way Sarah moved, always aware of her exits. Always watching. This wasn't a homeless child. This was a child in hiding. If you're watching this thinking something terrible is about to happen, type protect in the comments. On day 51, everything changed. Keisha was wiping down tables at 6:30 a.m., preparing for the breakfast rush, when she noticed the Mercedes parked outside again. But this time, the man got out. He was tall, white, expensive haircut, suit that probably cost more than Keisha made in a month. He walked directly to the spot where Sarah always waited, looked around carefully, then tried the door to the barber shop. Locked. He checked his watch, then got back in his Mercedes and drove slowly down the block, scanning like he was searching for something. Or someone. Keisha pulled out her phone and called Mama Lou. Something's wrong. That man from the Mercedes. He's looking for her. Where's the girl? She hasn't shown up yet. She's always here by now. Then maybe she saw him first and ran. But Keisha had a worse thought. Maybe Sarah didn't run. Maybe she got caught. At 7:15 a.m., Sarah still hadn't appeared. Keisha stood by the window, her stomach in knots, watching the street. The morning regulars came and went. Jerome burned a batch of bacon, because Keisha was too distracted to call the order. Mama Lou said nothing, just kept cooking, but her eyes kept drifting to that empty spot on the sidewalk. At 9:47 a.m., 3 black SUVs with government plates pulled up outside Mama Lou's soul food kitchen, not police cruisers. Federal vehicles. Lord have mercy, Mama Lou whispered. What did we step in? 6 people got out. 5 in FBI windbreakers, 1 woman in a plain business suit. They walked into the restaurant with the kind of purpose that made every customer go quiet. Keisha Washington? The woman in the suit asked, pulling out credentials. Keisha's hands were shaking. Yes, ma'am. I'm Special Agent Monica Chen, FBI. We need to talk to you about a child you've been feeding. A girl you know as Sarah. The restaurant went dead silent. Is she okay? Keisha asked immediately. Did something happen to her? She's safe, Agent Chen said. Because of you. Can we speak privately? They moved to the small office behind the kitchen. Agent Chen sat across from Keisha at the cluttered desk and pulled out a tablet, showing her a professional photograph. The girl in the picture was wearing a private school uniform, her hair in neat braids with ribbons, smiling at the camera. It was Sarah, but not Sarah. This was a different child. Confident, cared for, loved. Her real name is Amelia Richardson, Agent Chen said. She's 8 years old. 6 months ago, she was kidnapped from her home in San Francisco by her non-custodial father, Marcus Richardson, following a contentious divorce and custody battle. Keisha felt the air leave her lungs. Marcus Richardson is a tech executive worth approximately $400 million. When the judge awarded full custody to Amelia's mother due to documented abuse, Marcus decided if he couldn't have his daughter legally, he's been moving her across the country, different cities every few weeks, keeping her isolated and terrified. Agent Chen swiped to another photo. The man from the Mercedes. That's him, Keisha said immediately. He's been watching her. Watching this place. We know. We've had him under surveillance for 2 weeks. The only reason we found Amelia at all is because someone reported seeing a young girl matching her description outside a restaurant in South Philadelphia. Someone who noticed details and took photos. Agent Chen pulled up images on her tablet. Photos from the FBI's surveillance. And there, in several shots, was Keisha's reflection in the restaurant window, watching Sarah, protecting her without even knowing it. You did everything right, Agent Chen said. You didn't push, didn't force her to talk, Didn't call the police who might have scared her into running before we could get here. You just fed her. Kept her alive. Gave her one stable thing in 6 months of hell. Where is she now? Reunited with her mother as of 6 a.m. this morning. Marcus Richardson was arrested at 6:30 when he returned to the location where he'd been keeping Amelia. He'd been planning to move her again today, which is why you didn't see her this morning. But Amelia managed to slip out a window at 5 a.m. and came straight here. Keisha's eyes filled with tears. She came here? She told the agents who found her that this was the only safe place she knew. The only place where someone had been kind to her without asking for anything. She was trying to get to you when we intercepted her 2 blocks away. Agent Chen paused, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. Miss Washington, I've worked child abduction cases for 12 years. Most of these kids, when they're recovered, they're traumatized to the point where they can't function. They don't trust anyone. But Amelia, when we found her, she asked if someone could bring you. She said Miss Keisha always keeps her promises. She'll be worried if I don't show up for breakfast. Keisha put her head in her hands and sobbed. 6 months, 51 days of feeding this child, not knowing she was literally keeping an abducted girl alive. Can I see her? Keisha asked. Her mother is on a plane from San Francisco right now. She specifically requested to meet you when she arrives. Agent Chen stood, then paused. One more thing. Marcus Richardson had been monitoring his daughter's movements. He knew she was coming here every day. He'd planned to move her this week, but he was also considering something else. We found communications suggesting he was planning to confront you, possibly hurt you, to punish Amelia for forming an attachment. Keisha felt ice in her veins. You were in danger, Miss Washington, and you never knew it, but you kept showing up anyway. Kept feeding a child who needed help. That takes a special kind of courage. 4 hours later, a woman walked into Mama Lou's soul food kitchen. Late 30s, designer clothes, exhausted eyes. Behind her, holding her hands tightly, was Sarah, Amelia. The little girl saw Keisha and broke free from her mother's grip, running across the restaurant and throwing her arms around Keisha's waist. You kept your promise, Amelia said, her voice muffled against Keisha's uniform. You said you'd be here every morning. You were. Keisha knelt down, pulling Amelia into a proper hug. Of course I was here, baby. Amelia's mother approached, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to thank you. The FBI said you fed my daughter every day for almost 2 months, kept her safe, watched over her. I just gave her breakfast, Keisha said, standing. You gave her more than that. The woman pulled out her phone, showing Keisha a video. It was Amelia, sitting with a therapist, recorded yesterday. Can you tell me about Miss Keisha? The therapist asked. She's the reason I knew good people still existed, Amelia said on the screen. When Daddy told me everyone outside was dangerous, that no one would help me, I knew he was lying because Miss Keisha helped me every single day. She didn't know who I was. She just knew I was hungry. The video ended. Amelia's mother wiped her eyes. My daughter was alone, terrified, being told by her abuser that the world was dangerous. You proved him wrong. Every single morning, you proved him wrong. 3 months later, Mama Lou's Soul Food Kitchen had a new sign in the window. Safe haven location. All children welcome. The FBI had designated it as an official safe place where any child in crisis could come for help. No questions asked. Keisha kept a photo behind the counter. Amelia, back in San Francisco, healthy and smiling, standing in front of her new school. In the corner of the photo, written in a child's careful handwriting. Thank you for the best breakfast I ever had. Not because the food was good, even though it was, but because someone cared. Love, Amelia. The customers who'd criticized Keisha for enabling bad parenting never apologized. They just stopped coming. The ones who stayed, who'd always known what Keisha was doing was right, left bigger tips, and occasionally brought extra food to leave for any child who might need it. Marcus Richardson was sentenced to 15 years for kidnapping, child endangerment, and crossing state lines with an abducted minor. In court, the judge noted that the only thing that kept this child alive and hopeful was the daily kindness of a stranger who asked for nothing in return. Mama Luz became quietly famous in certain circles. Social workers knew about it. Teachers whispered about it. And every few weeks a child would appear outside, hungry and scared, and Keisha would bring them a container of food, no questions asked. Because that's what kindness looks like. It doesn't demand credentials. It doesn't ask for proof of worthiness. It just shows up, every morning with breakfast. The man in the Mercedes is in prison. The little girl is home with her mother, thriving in therapy and school. And Keisha still works the morning shift at Mama Lou's, still watching the sidewalk, still ready with a container of food for whoever might need it. Sometimes saving a life looks like dramatic rescues, and sirens and heroes and capes. But sometimes it looks like scrambled eggs and grits, handed through a door to a child no one else saw. Subscribe to the Unheard Stories, because the people who save lives quietly deserve to be heard loudly. And if you ever see a hungry child, remember this story. Remember that sometimes feeding them isn't enabling anything except survival. Sometimes breakfast isn't just food. Sometimes it's proof that the world isn't as dark as someone told them it was. Sometimes it's hope on a styrofoam plate. And that can change everything.